Sean Bice, how the hell are you today?
I'm fantastic actually. Christmas is coming. I saw Santa Claus on the street corner the other day, and I waved to him, and I got all excited. I felt like Elf there for a minute. It's Santa. But things are going well. Hey, I got to tell you, this time of
Well, hey,
year.
wait. Let's tell
What?
these people what the hell we're doing before we get
Okay,
going.
all right. All right. I just get excited.
I know you get excited, but hey, this is off track. It's MotoAmerica's podcast. I'm Paul Carruthers, the communications manager for MotoAmerica, and I'm joined by Sean Bice, who is he's out in Ohio. I'm in Southern California, close to the MotoAmerica headquarters, and Sean's nowhere near the MotoAmerica headquarters. He's actually a little smarter than me that he works off site, so he gets the good and not the bad. Although I'm not going to go ahead and tell him that I'm the good part. But so anyway, Sean, back to your little Santa Claus sighting. Were you scared, or you like Santa Claus?
I was scared at first because I don't know. He just appeared out of nowhere, and I'm like, "What is that guy doing on a street corner?" It was kind of in this downtown Newark, Ohio, which is the county seat where I live, and we were driving around the town square, and all of a sudden, Santa Claus is standing there in the dark, and he was waving, and I was like, "It's him." I mean, and then we went back around after that, and he was gone. So
He was waving his hand, right?
he was waving his hand. He had
All
glasses
right.
on, and I mean, he was perfect. I couldn't believe it. But we went back around the square again, and like I said, he disappeared. So I don't know. Might have been one too many hard ciders or something that affected me
Yeah.
that night. But anyway, what I started to say was holiday season. I think you can tell by looking at me that I'm a bit of a foodie. They have a they have a
No.
definition for it now. Foodie. But anyway, I'm a big fan of comfort food, obviously. So I wanted to ask you, since you are from Australia, do you know what goulash is?
Yeah, but it's not Australian, isn't it? German?
Well, it's Hungarian, but
Oh, okay.
have you ever had it? Have you ever had a
Yes, I
goulash?
have. I
Is
have.
it
I spent most of my childhood in Europe, so I had basically everything, and goulash was one of them.
and to you is goulash like a beef stew type thing?
Um, yeah, I guess. I seem to remember, how when you're a kid, you kind of remember things that you didn't like. I kind of remember it being like, I don't know if there's cabbage in it. I don't
Okay.
know. To be truthful, I don't know exactly. I know I've had it, but I couldn't tell you what it was kind of a stewish thing. Yeah, but
Yeah.
why? Well, where are we going with this?
Okay, where we're going with this is there's actually a thing called American goulash, and what it is I'm sure you've had this before. It's elbow macaroni and spaghetti sauce and ground beef, and it's something I used to have a lot when I was a kid. And in this area of the country, I discovered when I moved to the Ohio or Midwest area. Oddly enough, they call it Johnny Marzetti, and the reason they call it that is there used to be a restaurant called Marzetti's in Columbus, where the ladies used to make the lady that ran the place and cooked all the food used to make this, and she named it after her son because it was her son's favorite thing. So for some reason, just in this region of the country, it's called Johnny Marzetti, but most of the America knows it as American goulash, and it's something all of us kind of have. So when I lived in New England for about 15 years, they have a different name for it. So when you introduce the guest, I want to ask him if he knows what they call Johnny Marzetti or goulash in New England, because he used to live in that area, even though he doesn't now. So that's my big setup for this question for this our guest tonight.
My knowledge grows every week with you.
That's that's what I'm here for, Paul.
The
And
problem is, it's like the useless stuff goes in, so I have to find something equally useless to get out, or else the hard drive's full.
you just never know
So
when you're going to need that info, though. I mean, it might come up sometime. So
yeah, I'm going to force it up because if I got to listen to it, I'm going to make sure somebody else has to listen to it as well at some point. Well, our guest is Dale Quarterley. I won't bring him in yet. I'm gonna make him sound really good for a little while, and he'll come in, and if we could see his face, he'd be all aglow with blush and stuff. But Dale Quarterley, for people who know the Moto America series now, they would think of Dale Quarterley as the guy who owns or partially owns the Quarterley racing team. which is it's Quarterley racing. It's also on track development. They run a junior cup program. They've had success, obviously. This past year, they ran Kawasaki's. So that's a bit of background on the Dale Quarterley of today. But the Dale Quarterley that I've known for a zillion years is Dale Quarterley, the motorcycle racer. And when I think of Dale Quarterley, the thing that comes to mind is when he won his one and only AMA Superbike National at Mid Ohio, and that was on August 8th, 1993. I'm sure that's a day that I won't go out on a limb and say it was the greatest day of his life, because who knows what that would be, you know, maybe a marriage or the birth of a child or something silly like that. But I'm sure as a professional motorcycle racer, that was the best day of his life. It was actually every once in a while somebody wins a motorcycle race or maybe gets on the podium for the first time, and if every once in a while everything's right, and it's one of those times when even like their fiercest rival or maybe somebody in the paddock who doesn't particularly like them, but no matter what, everybody in the paddock is happy that individual had that success. And I think of like Kyle Wyman when he got second at New Jersey. I don't think there was anybody in the paddock that wasn't happy about that. Mm-hmm. When Dale Quarterley finally won that Superbike race, to a person in that paddock, everybody was happy, because this was a guy that busted his ass for a long time, and you knew it could come, but you still always had that doubt, like, is it ever going to happen for this guy? And finally, at Mid Ohio on that Sunday, it did happen. I had a nice time this morning when I was doing a little research on Dale. I was able to go into the Cycle News archives, which are very valuable for anybody that has any sense or wants to know a little bit about history. You can go in there and basically look at any cycle news from the past 30 or 40 years and find what you're looking for and actually read that entire issue or the story, whatever you want to do. So I focused obviously on Mid Ohio, and I found the story, and it strangely enough, or not strangely enough, since I did all of them anyways, but I actually wrote that story in 1993 when Dale won that race. And there's a few races that stick out in your mind, even when you've been doing it as long as I do or have. And that one was one that I'll always remember, because it was special, because Dale had won that. I'm gonna read just the start of the story a little bit, because I actually did a really good job of kind of setting the tone for what this actually felt like for people in the paddock. But I basically said, with what arguably was the most popular victory of the season, even in the eyes of his peers, Dale Quarterley was rewarded for 10 years of perseverance today at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Almost 10 years to the day, a 22-year-old named Dale Quarterley finished fifth on a Kawasaki GPZ 750 in his AMA Superbike debut at Mid-Ohio. 10 solid years of tenacity later, the career-long privateer made good on a dream. And the tears flowed freely after Quarterley, his family, and his Team Mirage Kawasaki crew tried to keep their emotions in check following his stunning first ever AMA Superbike National victory in the Holland Oil sponsored race. It wasn't possible. The race, it was, we'll talk to Dale about it here in a second, because obviously he knows more about it than I do, because it was him. But the race was, it was red flagged, it was restarted. And the part of my story that I also look back on is, and I said, what made Quarterley's victory so special was that it was in no way a gimme. The factory stars didn't fall by the wayside or retire with mechanical problems. They were just flat beaten. They were beaten by a privateer who deserves to be taken seriously. Quarterley beat Jamie James. He beat Mike Smith. He beat Doug Poland. He beat Thomas Stevens. He beat Colin Edwards. He beat them all. And that's true. Sometimes you see, a lot of guys get that first win. It might be raining. There might be some backstory that kind of makes it so, was it a real win? This was a real victory. And again, I don't want to go on and on and on about it, but it was also pretty special when I looked through that coverage. We had Dale Quarterley winning the race. The 250 race was won by Jimmy Felice on a bike that Wayne Rainey owned and sponsored him with. Jason Pridmore, who does our TV announcing, won the 750 Supersport race, and Thomas Stevens, who's our rider rep, finished 5th in the Superbike race. So
Wow.
it's kind of funny how, it all, there's a lot of those same faces with those same stories in our paddock today. And with that, let's bring Dale in. He's probably fighting back the tears now. maybe probably because my intro was too long. But anyways, welcome, Dale.
Let's try not to fall asleep.
You bastard.
ADD. We got to go a little faster.
Well, you can pick up the pace for us. Talk to me about that day. Was it, obviously, if it was special for me, it had to have been special for you. So is the memories pretty vivid?
People, I'm going to change subjects for a second. I live in North Carolina at the moment, and I'm in a town called Mooresville. I'm about 20 minutes above Charlotte. So everybody around here is yes, sir, no, sir. And when someone sends it to me, I instantly say, hey, that's not me. It's my father. You call me Mr. Quarterley. It's my father. That I still have that 12-year-old mentality. That's not me. It's my father. My name is Dale. Or call me Quarterley, one or the other, but don't call me Mr. Quarterley. So I'm bringing that up on purpose, that when I go to the racetrack now and somebody comes up and says something, of course, I have to introduce myself and I'll say, hi, Dale Quarterley. And when you say it to the right person that was there, their eyes light up, and it doesn't matter if they're 20 years old, well, I guess it'd have to be 35 years old, or 65 years old. As soon as you mention your name, their eyes light up if they were there. And they're like, man, I was there. I was 12. I was with my father. And we were doing this, and I was eating cotton candy, and I'm sitting on the bench, and I had a hot dog, and I had a tummy ache, and my father was crying when the race was over. I'm like, Dad, what were you crying about? He's like, well, I was crying because that guy just won. He's trying to explain to me what that guy had to go to win the race. He says, I'm 12. What do I care? Just give me some more cotton candy. So you can't believe how many people come up and say something about it. And in my case, where I'm going with this is someone that comes to the races today, you just cannot express to them what the races were like back then. And it's not because I was part of it. It's because it was fact that Rainey and Schwantz and Memola and Spencer and all those guys, they were gods on purpose. They were gods because they came from real racing. They came from, you go to a local dirt track, there's 60 guys show up for a 20 motorcycle field. Only the best made the main event. If your name was in the sheets, you were one of the best. It's not that you showed up and everybody gets a trophy like today. It's you were one of the best. So again, where I'm going with this is, yes, I won Mid-Ohio, and yes, it took me 10 years, but it took me 10 years because, as you can imagine, it's everything. It's rider, sponsors, money just to waste that in travel, cars, tires, you name it, motels, the money's just going poof. Is pulling that whole piece together is a tough nut to crack. My number that year was $350,000. That's what I had to spend. The lowest number I was competing against was 1.2 million.
Wow.
So you got 12 bikes on the grid, 12 factory teams on the grid with the lowest number at 1.2 million. And I'm doing it on 350,000. So just that piece alone made it worthwhile. And of course we didn't know it then, but looking forward, looking backwards, the better part of the deal was we ended up the year second in points. We only got beat by a small margin to Doug Poland, which had just come back from winning 2 world championships on the factory Ducati. Right? So not only did I win my first race, I had my best season ever. In the last 3 seasons, 93, 94, 95, I beat the factory teams with lease equipment all 3 years. So it wasn't a fluke either.
You know,
No part
Dale,
of it was a fluke.
I also recall that wasn't that around the time that those Ducatis had crazy horsepower. They were running that as Jeep gasoline, and they were being limited. People were crying for getting them limited in horsepower and everything. Wasn't that during that era as well?
Well, it was 100% that. I mean, those guys were flying in 55-gallon drums of Egypt fuel they were like $2,000 a drum. If you rode behind the guy too long, you friggin' had a headache and your eyes were watering and you pooped yourself in your leathers just from the smell of the fuel. I mean, you completely lost body control. Oh, it was insane. It was 100% cancer-causing agents, which is why half the mechanics aren't around anymore.
Yeah, that was a crazy time period for sure, though, with those bikes. I just remember. And you know, there were a lot of factory bikes then. You were like the privateer guy that everybody was following, and you know, you were the feel-good story of that era for sure. With everything
I'm one of the few guys that, and this is still fact, that can build it and ride it. And it's still true, which is why our MotoAmerica team is competitive. Because I can build them, and then I can teach the riders how to ride them. So far, only one of 10 riders we've had so far, 9 riders, whatever it is, only one of them I haven't got on the box. No, I take that back. Every single rider I've got on the box. I was thinking Dallas Dad made it on the box, but he finished 3rd at Laguna. So every single rider that has ridden for us in the last 2 years, I've gotten on the box. Either won a race or put him in the top 3.
Hey, Dale, before we go too far down the road, so let me go back to my story. You talk about ADHD. I want to know if you know this. So one time, huh?
I already have
the answer. Okay, give me the answer, sir.
In my thing, when you miss elbow macaroni, tomato sauce, and hamburger, it's called American chop suey.
That's it. That is it. That's what they call it in New England. It's the weirdest thing. I used to order it in the diners in Manchester, New Hampshire. The first time I had it, I was like, this is goulash. Why are they giving me this? I can't believe it. And you call carbonated beverages what?
Well, I'd call it a tonic, or
that's
everybody else calls it soda.
Nope. You're Rockland. Is Rockland near Beverly in that area? Are you from that North Shore area?
I grew up 20 minutes below Boston.
Okay. Yeah. Tonic and American chop suey is so what you are. Not to mention your accent that everybody in Mooresville, North Carolina probably still looks at you and wonders what that accent is. Did they ask you about it?
Well, it's half the guys when you help the team guys, they're looking at you, and I'll say it 2 or 3 times, and they don't even know what I'm saying. What are you even saying? Like, what do you mean? What am I saying? I'm like, go get the car. They're like, well, what is it?
I don't know
what a car is. I'm like, it's the thing we drove the racetrack in.
It's funny that you haven't lost that accent at all.
I'm like, yeah, the car. Go get the car.
You haven't lost that accent at all. That's pretty awesome. But
no.
But there were a lot of fast guys from New England. I mean, you and David Sadowski. I mean, Gerald Rothman. You know, what do you attribute guys in New England? Mike Baldwin, for sure. Yeah, yeah. What do you attribute to New England riders? Where does that come from?
It's the same thing as Speedway. All the Speedway guys are in Cal because there's 40 motorcycles on the grid.
So what happens in New England?
The fact that the best, it wasn't that the best of the best, is that there was so many motorcycles that everybody drove everybody else, and it was just a steamroll effect.
But do you think it was that you had Loudon?
You be better than the next guy.
But do you think it was because you had Loudon or Bridgehampton? You had the Loudon Road Racing Series back then. You had a local track to go to.
I think it's because of there was 5 racetracks we could run within 7 hours, basically. And all of them had, back in the day, 30, 40, 50 bikes on the grid. It's not the same. Racing's not the same today. It's not the same for multiple reasons. When we won Mid-Ohio in 93, there's 50,000 fans there. And I'm not exaggerating. When I did the last lap at speed, the white flag lap, like you come up over the horseshoe, whatever they call it, the up over hill section. Every person on that hill was standing up screaming. I wasn't looking at him, but I could hear him. I was wondering, what the hell is that noise? As I'm coming up over the hill, and it dawns on me that it's the fans screaming. I mean, there's 50,000 people there. There's 150,000 people at Daytona. There's probably 80, 90,000 people at Laguna. It was different back then. There was way more people at the races. You know, it was just different. And it was different because my take on it. It was different because RJ Reynolds was involved then. And RJ Reynolds' advertising budget was $3 billion. So they were just spending money like it was water, like us having the 5-lap camel shootout races for $5,000 to win. I mean, they were just looking for a way to spend money. They didn't have to have a rhyme or reason to it, right? Every sign there was bought and paid for by them. That's why a pit pass was $10 back then, because they paid for the races. All
and they used to pass out. They used to
put money in AMA's pocket.
They used to pass out cartons of cigarettes to people in the paddock. I'll never forget that.
I mean, it's everything was sponsored by them. That's the problem with today. Everybody complaining about today. It has nothing to do with the races. Wayne Rainey and crew are running a sensational event. Everything that goes on is exactly the way it should be. It's on time. It's orchestrated. You know what's going to happen. If they got a problem, they do their best they can possibly do, A, to fix it, and B, to get back on schedule, which B is the most important part. Because when you take now that I'm older, you take your girlfriend or your wife and kids to the track, you can't hang out there till 8 o'clock at night. If it doesn't get done by 5 or 6, they're screaming, I got to go home, we got to go home, we got to go home. And you don't get to see the main event. So it's great that MotoAmerica runs it like it should be run.
Yeah, and you're exactly right about the camel thing, because you know, and I've explained this to our people. It's like, if the getting a series sponsor is one thing, and it puts some money into the series. It, you know, maybe ultimately ends up in a rider's point fund or something. But I said the thing that Camel did that you just talked about is the fact that they activated so well on their sponsorship. Like, Sean, they would, you know, there would be 4 or 5 Camel people that went into town, you know, maybe a week or 2 before the event, and just to activate. And you when you showed up at one of those racetracks, or you showed up at one of those towns, if you showed up to a Brazelton, Georgia, for example, there wasn't anybody around there that didn't know that there was a motorcycle race happening at Road Atlanta.
Every major road that led to that for 100 miles had signs in the window. Every major road, not Route 70 or not Route 10. Every major road.
Right. Yeah, they just they did a great job at activating it, and as Dale said, I mean, it's you know, they had the money and they spent the money, and that's why it was as successful as it was.
Right.
Yeah, it was a crazy time.
The other piece that's hurting racing at the moment, on the backside of that conversation, is track days. That now that both bikes, cars, now that people can go on, we leave Sunday night, they roll in Monday morning and they get to ride the racetrack on Monday and Tuesday. Well, why come and watch us when they're going to do it themselves the next day? They don't need us anymore. They don't live through us like they used to. They can do it themselves. So we lost half of the crowd to that. We lost the other quarter of the crowd to your Android phone, like I'm talking on at the moment. I mean, I can follow any race in the country on Race Monitor. I can speed hive some of it. I can fan choice watch videos of past and present while I'm driving down the highway, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason to show up. That's hurting attendance too. So back to, I want to make sure I hit it. MotoAmerica is doing a sensational job of what they have to deal with between the money and the sponsors, and how much noise they have to deal with on the outside. They run a sensational program and making it move forward. And anybody that shows up agrees. The fans that show up all agree.
Hey, Dale, I have a question for you. Paul and I were talking about this a little bit today, and I recall when you used to ride that everybody, and I say I'm going to include myself in this. We used to always talk about, man, he's so fast for such a big guy. You looked big on the bike. And the kids these days are a lot taller than they used to be. Did you ever talk about that? Did you ever feel like you were a bigger rider? And did you ever feel that that was any kind of a disadvantage to you?
Well, I mean, we could go on and on and on about, let me word it this way, why I didn't get a factory ride, right? There's multiple reasons for it, I'm sure. But that's probably the biggest one. That if you can hire Miguel at 145 pounds in shape and can ride, why would you put a 190-pound guy on? If you had to pick between the two of us just in that piece alone, you'd pick Miguel, right? That every 7 pounds is a horsepower. He weighs 145, I weigh 190. Randy Renfro weighs 118.
Right.
Right.
Do you think it's still a factor though? Because you take like Matthew Skoltz is like probably 190 pounds. Actually, he might not be that much, but there are bigger guys now, than there used to be.
Now you factor in 190 pounds into a 220 horse motorcycle, not 190 pounds into a 140 horse motorcycle.
Right.
That the number factor is different. I was freaking 10% of the motorcycle. They're only 5% of the motorcycle or 7% of the motorcycle. It's not the same.
So it's power to weight ratio is what you're saying. And that's
what's killing me. It wasn't the height. It was just the weight. Now I can make the motorcycle do things Miguel can't do, but he can also make it do stuff I can't do. Like if we both rode the same pace, I'm going to burn the tires off of it before he burns the tires off of it because I'm carrying more weight.
Right.
Right. So there's definitely disadvantages.
I've got to ask you about that weekend in Mid-Ohio just one more time, but you qualified fourth for that race. Did you feel going into that? I mean, did you wake up that Sunday feeling any different than any other race day? I mean, did you feel like, okay, this is one I've got a shot at?
Your lead into it is 100% correct, which you learn over time. When it's your day, it's your day. And that's all there is to it. When it's not your day, it's not your day, and that's all there is to it. You can't make either one happen.
So you're saying you felt different that day?
No, I'm saying it was just my day. That we were fast all season. We were even if I finished 7th, I was right behind 4th, 5th, and 6th. I wasn't 20 seconds back like in the past. I mean, if you look at the results, we were competitive all year. When we got to Mid-Ohio, by then we had sorted the motorcycle out because I was Mazzocchi, Fox, Shocks. The factory guys was Olin's. I was Michelin. They were Dunlop. So you couldn't go ask them a question. Everything I was doing, I was on my own. That it took us a little while to sort it out. And it also took me a little while to ride it at that pace, at that warp speed pace that I wasn't used to, that my other bikes wouldn't let me do that, ride it that hard, that fast. So when we got there, Mid-Ohio is a good track for me because my size actually helps because you can muscle the motorcycle around. I can make it do stuff Miguel can't even dream of doing at Mid-Ohio. So when we got there, we had an idea. If there was a weekend we get a shot at winning, this is it. Loudon was the other one. We got a shot at winning. There was 3 racetracks. Those 2 and Sonoma are the 3 racetracks we figured we had a shot at winning at. So when we got there, we were head down right from the beginning, and we were up front in practice. That was probably the best I had qualified ever. Qualifying is not usually my thing. The best we had qualified, and I had in our head that Ron Barrick, which you didn't mention in your list, that used to run the AMA, was my crew chief back then, and he's still with me today, helping run the Quarterley racing team. We all sat down and we just were like, hey, we just need to stay in the top 4. Don't let the leader get away. If we can accomplish that, I think we can beat him at the end, that I'll have more tire than they'll have at the end. Michelin's a little better than Dunlop at the moment, and me being able to muscle the motorcycle around, not do it with the tire, but do it with body strength, we'll be able to save tire. If we can just stay with the leaders, stay in the top 4 all day, we'll be fine. And that's, if you watch the race, that's just what happened.
Mm.
You know, I'm running second, third. I go back to 4th, get back to 2nd, lead for a minute, just let those guys go back by. I don't really care about leading, just kind of cruising. And Miguel gets to us. He goes to drive away. He gets a couple seconds on us. I'm 3rd. Jamie's holding me up. And I'm like, when I look up and finally see Miguel's got a gap on us, I'm like, oh man, I can't let this happen. I got to go. So I bonsai past Jamie, run Miguel down, pass him, try and slow him down because I don't want to go this speed, but I'm trying to save tire. Slow him down. He passes me. Jamie catches back up. He passes me. We all race for a second. Then Miguel disappears. And we go on to, I don't know, was it 5 to go? Jamie runs into a guy and knocks him down. And I'm like, okay, this is the time. I got to go now. And I come onto the front straightaway, warp speed, spinning the tire. And I can't get the thing to hook up. And I try leaning back, like dirt tracking in, and make it wheelie to hook up. It still won't hook up, but I can't shut the throttle off either because I'm sideways. So I go slide off the racetrack sideways, wheelie, and the thing goes through the dirt and wiggles itself back up onto the pavement, big, huge dust cloud. Jamie goes back by. I drive back under him in turn 1 and still had in my head, I got a lead to the end of the back straightaway, which I couldn't do all day. They'd pass me before I could get there. I just need to lead 1 lap. If I can lead to the end of the back straightaway, I've got this, even though it was 5 to go. And that's just what happened. I beat him to the end of the back straightaway, and then I was a second a lap faster from that moment on. In 5 laps, we won by 5.5 seconds.
Wow.
It's funny. It's funny listening to
point.
It's funny listening to you, and then the story's sitting here right in front of me, and your quotes are identical to what you said however many years ago that was. Because my quote is, it talks about him running off the track. Quarterley never backed off for an instant, and his quote was, I was either going to crash it or win it. Right. I never got out of it. I was going to the front, and there was nothing else to it.
Right. Right. But that's my point of, did I do it when I woke up? No. Did I feel like when I woke up, today's my day? No. But once we got in race mode, it was, you know, we were competitive and I was going to do all I could do to not let this happen. But once we got to midway in the race and it was, to me, coming my way, that then I probably changed my attitude a little too. You know, I want to swear.
Did it seem easy to you, Dale, or did it seem hard?
Looking back,
yeah,
I proved the point, which was once I decided now, we won by 5.5 seconds in 5 laps. To me, I proved the point, which is I was cruising all day, not racing all day. When I decided it's time to go, I proved that now meant now. And to me, that's what's cool about my victory. Yes, I agree. I only have 1, but I won that race. We won that race as a team. The sponsor got to win that race. It wasn't like Paul said, it was not a give me. Lightning didn't start. It didn't start raining. The fog didn't roll in. Everybody else didn't break. There wasn't an oil spill that took out 10 of them. Everybody was running at the end. There were 12 factory motorcycles on the racetrack when the race was over.
Yeah, no footnote to that story. That's just flat out won it. Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
Now, Miguel had a problem. He was leaking oil. Doug had a problem. He broke an engine mount bolt and was just trying to put it to the end. Okay. I think that's great. I friggin' built my motorcycle.
Right.
Right. We put a motor in Saturday night for Sunday. We didn't have an oil leak. We didn't break a motor mount bolt.
Right.
Right.
Hey, Dale. So you raced Ducati. You raced Bimota, you raced Yamaha. What was it about that Kawasaki? Was there something special about that bike for you?
It was in '92. Jerry Randall, which is Valley Motorsports in Northampton, Mass, calls me up and says, and I had been training with him some, calls me up and says, hey, I've been talking to Peter Laird, which is the creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I have him interested in helping. Would you be interested in doing something? Of course, you can imagine what my answer was. So we have a quick meeting, and he decides he's going to help, and he throws in a couple of bucks. Well, between that and what I was doing, it was enough to go. I think we put that motorcycle on the box twice, but it was in the rain. I just did not have the terminal speed to go run with the factory guys. So we go back at the end of '92 and say, hey, Kawasaki's interested in helping some. Muzzy says he will give me a lease program, which basically is he'll build the motors, I'll do everything else. But he'll build the motors for us, and he'll swap motors every week. And it's going to cost X. So between Pete stepping up and the other stuff stepping up, all of a sudden now I have two things. I have enough money to function that I don't have to do side work during the week. And I have the speed to basically go run with those guys. They still have me 4 or 5 horse plus my weight, but I can basically run with them. So with those two things accomplished, it gave us the speed to run up front. As much as I love Kawasaki, and I still have my dirt bikes at the moment at Kawasaki's, and the new one I just bought my son is a Kawasaki. It's not that I was a Kawasaki fan. It's that everything just came together. That was the year. '93, I won my first road race. I got married, and I had my first son, all in that same year.
Wow.
'93 was just my year.
That's a lot to do in 1 year, man.
Right. So
it's amazing.
But to lightly answer the question, yes, me and the motorcycle got along way better than me and the Ducati.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward a little bit to today. We started out a little bit that the subject came up about participation medals and participation trophies, and I kind of like to refer to it, since I'm an old guy, as like the pussification of the United States.
Correct.
But you now work with those kids, and I know how you are. Sean knows how you are. I mean, you call a spade a spade. You always know where you always. Well, I think I've known you long enough that I'm sure I've been on the other end of it.
Yeah.
But at least I know, you're no bullshit. You say what you want to say, and we move on with it. How difficult is it to deal with the kids of today based on how you are? I mean, do you have to bite your tongue a lot, or do you just let them have it? And if they take it, they take it. And if they can't, then you think about somebody else.
It's not the kids, it's the dads are the problem.
Yeah.
That the dads want to know more than you or question you or whatever. It's always the dad that's the problem, not the kid. The kids are just what kids are. They're giant sponges. All they want to do is learn and move forward. They don't really care how they accomplish it. They haven't got that ego check yet. It's the dads that are the problem.
Do you have some advantage, Dale? You got a couple parents on the team that can't really understand a lot of English, it seems like, so maybe that helps a little bit. I don't know.
Well,
does it?
Their plus is they don't know racing, so they never question anything.
Oh, that's good.
It's other dads in the past that were the pain.
Right.
So, but in the kids, and I have a tendency to swear more than you know. The kids like the fact that I tell them the way it is. I'm not telling them, I don't come in and say to them, well, I might say it this way. What the hell are you doing in turn 3? You look like a friggin' retard out there. That's exactly what I'll say to them. And their comeback is, I know, I can't figure it out. And I'm like, well, what are you even, I can't even figure out what you're trying to do. And we'll make a joke of it. But I don't start with being funny, and I don't start with being their buddy. I'm not there to be their buddy. I'm there as their rider coach, and I'm there to fix problems. And the problem is you're riding like crap and you look like a retard. Those are the two problems we got to fix. There's no coloring this over. If you go talk to the fan next to the fence and he's looking out there and you asked him, hey, tell me when the guy comes by that looks like a retard, he'd say, oh, that guy right there. They're like, oh crap, that's my guy. Right? So there's no color in it, and there's no sense in color in it. They're sponges. They want to learn. Just tell them the way it is. They'll fix it. Right? Now, sometimes it takes a couple of weeks that they don't agree. They struggle to figure out how to change, or the change is so far from where they are. They can't do it in one step. There's different points to what happens at the track. But when Dallas got hurt, which was a shame, because Dallas, we were at New Jersey testing, and I had got him to change his riding style, and I did it by wiring up his helmet like the NASCAR guys. So I'm sitting on the end of the racetrack with my headset on, yelling at him while he's riding real time.
Wow.
And he finally got to the point of me finally saying for the 5th time in 2 laps, would you get off the freaking seat? Stop freaking moving the clutch and get off the seat. And he comes by the next lap and he's like, screw you, I'm going to show you. And he freaking fires his ass off the seat. He almost went through the grass on the inside of the turn. The thing turned so freaking hard, he had to stand it back up, not to go off the racetrack. And then I said, how'd that work for you, loser? It's what I've been telling you to do for the last 3 weeks straight. And from that moment on, he dropped like 1.25 seconds. He would have, I guarantee you, we would have went back to the MotoAmerica race and sat on the pole, instantly sat on the pole, 100%. And 2 hours later, we're going around, we're running a class above us, and he's going around a guy, and the guy's offline, and then moves him over even more and gets him in the junk, and he friggin' high sides it, break both his wrists.
Yeah.
So at that moment, we lost Dallas. We had to hire Renzo. Renzo starts at Utah. He comes in. He's Brazilian, but they live here in the States. He comes in, and I chit chat with him, and I'm trying to get him to do some stuff, and I can tell he's not listening to me. So my job is to break him. So I'm picking on his hair length the whole time. We finally get to Saturday night. He finishes 5th in the first race. He crashes twice in practice, finishes 5th in the first race. So I pull him aside and ask, hey, you willing to listen to me yet? He's like, well, I'm going to have to do something. And I asked why. He says, well, because so far you're batting like 200 at 100 score. I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? He says, you told me exactly how the race was going to go before it even started, who was going to do what, how they were going to do it, and what I was going to end up with at the end, how I was going to ride during the race, what the tires are going to feel like, how the race ramps up as laps go on. You were 100% spot on. Everything you said in practice that I readjusted when I went faster, that's what I had to do. Everything you told me has come true. Every single thing. Wow. I'm like, okay. So what I'm asking for then is I want a real 15 minutes. If you give me a real 15 minutes, we'll win the race tomorrow. But I need a real 15 minutes. So he says, I don't know what a real 15 minutes is. I said, what a real 15 minutes is, when I say go wide open to the 1, you're going to go wide open to the 1, not at the 1.5 and tell me, oh, I was wide open to the 1. If I say hang off the bike, you're going to hang off the bike. If I say sit up, you're going to sit up. Whatever I say we need to do, you're going to 100% do it for 15 minutes. Then decide you like it or you don't like it. Not try it once and say, oh, that's terrible. I'm not doing that. Oh, that's just stupid. You're going to give me 15 minutes. He's like, okay. We sat down and we talked. He goes out on the racetrack. By the end of qualifying on Sunday morning, he was 4/10 faster than the next guy. He qualified 5th the day before. When the race was over, we won.
Wow.
And when he was done, he came in and said the exact same thing. You're 100% right. Said right up until the end, till that guy passed me and I didn't think I was going to win. He said, but I did exactly what you said, which was, relax. We have the fastest motorcycles here. Just wait a second. We'll beat him to the line. And that's what I did. And the motorcycle beat him to the line. He said, so we all won this race, not just me. You guys gave us enough power to get it to the finish line. And I rode it. And I'm like, hey, that's great. But where I'm going with this is I'm not trying to take the credit for it all. But what I am saying is they're sponges. And if you give them the right information, they will do something with it. If you pat them on the back and all hand them a trophy, they won't do anything.
Yeah, what do you think of the Junior Cup class in general? You're kind of the Pied Piper of that class, I think.
I think it's great. I would have liked it if it stayed something like KTM or all Kawasaki's or all Yamahas or all Beta scooters. I don't care what they all are. That when we split to do what we're doing, Kawasaki, Yamaha, or KTM, you don't know which bike is the fastest and what rider's doing what anymore. When they were all KTM, you knew exactly who was riding.
Right.
The top 3 guys that won that day, those were the guys that were riding. The crew had very little to do with it. We couldn't touch the motors, right? We couldn't do any of that. It was really hard to cheat, if any. That I like that piece of it a little better. Now that it has split, I kind of like it on a different front, that now it lets the team be a little more involved. It also makes the guys at the racetrack think more, not just show up and ride, because you could just buy a KTM to be competitive. That you actually have to go build a motorcycle. So you're teaching mechanics how to mechanic for the future, and you're teaching riders how to ride for the future. So there's a little more parity and everybody's moving forward if you're going to be a front running team. I think it helps there. Just kudos. It's usually the only race this year that I would give that the Junior Cup didn't win the weekend as far as the show went was Elkhart Lake, the Superbike race.
Oh, yeah.
Other than that, the Junior Cup won the weekend every other weekend as far as the show went. We had the best race of the weekend.
Yeah, it is a great show. I think, don't you think for the fans too, though, the fact that there are multiple brands in that class, it helps for them a little bit too. I mean, it's not just, I understand what you're saying about spec, but certainly multi-brands has some advantages too, right?
I think it helps. Definitely in the old days, even before me, guys showed up to see Honda win.
Yes.
Or Kawasaki win. Or they showed up to see Lawson beat Spencer. Those were the 2 reasons they showed up. Third on the list was hang out with their buddy or their girlfriend or their wife was third on the list. First or second was brand or rider. Those 2 were pretty well hand in hand. Today, people show up to hang out with their buddy. Brand is 3rd or 4th on the list. But it still matters. People still like Kawasaki or Yamaha or KTM to win. But it's 3rd on their list. It's not what it used to be.
All right, let's talk a little bit about next year. Is your program in place? Is it the same? Is there going to be anything different? Are we going to see some more twins racing out of you? You obviously, I would think you would have a soft spot in your heart for twins racing since, you have 8 of those wins over the course of your career from, I guess you won your first in 87 and then you won some in 88 and 89. Tell us a little bit about how your team's going to move forward in 2019.
Well, I actually sent Bob a text today, and it basically said, crap, I still can't ride. Because Junior Cup changed the rule again, and now it's 14 to 28. Right. 14 to 24. So he sends back, well, maybe if you can bend over and touch your toes and prove it, they'll let you ride. I'm not sure
Which
what
that
that
can't
meant.
happen.
So, as far as the Junior Cup goes, we actually have 4 riders at the moment, as far as I know, signed up for next season. Jamie Essadio is coming back. Dallas is coming back. Dallas is also going to do
Flat
the
track.
AFT flat track side. So he's going to do double duty like JD Beach is going to do. So that'll be awesome to watch on both sides.
Mm.
We have a new kid coming, but he's not coming till about halfway through the season. He's 13 years old at the moment, Ben Galati. We just came back from Homestead with him, and he actually won 3 out of 4 races down there. He should have won 4 out of 4. I yelled at him about the 4th one. He finished second, like by a wheel, but he gave it away. And when I yelled at him about it, he's like, yeah, I agree. So when he went out in the next race, he made sure he didn't lose that one and won that one. So he's coming. And another gentleman named T. Hobbs that ran MotoAmerica this year, I think, is coming over to our side, coming over to
We
the black
remember
side.
him. Yep. Yep, that's good.
He's supposed to come over. He's the one that beat us at Homestead, which I was mad because he had his motorcycle turned up, and I have my motorcycles in MotoAmerica trim. I won't turn them up. So we beat him.
He'll be
he
junior.
ended up signing with us because he got beat by an inferior motorcycle, and he still couldn't compete with us.
All 4 of these riders are going to be in Junior Cup on Kawasaki Ninja 400s. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Now,
what about
twin side?
Yeah, good.
We have a motorcycle being built by Chris Boy down in Florida, but he's going to build a motor and some basic chassis stuff. Then it'll come up here and I'll finish it. We don't have a program for that at the moment. We've got a couple of guys that want to rent rides for the year that we're talking to that want to run selected events. So we might just do that with it, just use it. If one of our riders and we think we want them to run 2 races in a weekend or something, we might let them run it. I might actually ride it myself. If I can touch my toes, rumor has it, he'll let me ride. That I might ride it myself in an event. So we just got to wait and see what happens.
Dale, how about last year? It was delightful that you had Geraldo Ferracci back in the paddock. Is he going to be with you again this year?
Oh, he's definitely coming back. I have a picture on Facebook. If you go on my Facebook page, my On Track Development Facebook page, that it's him standing in the rain out on the grid, walking back and forth, talking to Dallas and Jamie, walking between the 2 of them, and he's freaking wringing wet. That's how involved he is. He's not just there. I mean, he's working on stuff, doing stuff. If one of them crashes, he's involved helping. He's not just there. He's definitely part of it. For the people that don't know, Ferracci was a factory mechanic back in the day. And when they came over here and raced, when the season was over, they made him stay here. He was too good to come back to Europe and do what he was doing. The factory Benelli team made him stay here. And he started a company, his own company, Fast by Ferracci. And somehow he went drag racing. He was doing funny bike, beating Vance and Hines. Well, then a couple of guys asked him if he would do their motors to go road racing. And Ferracci's, yeah, no problem, bring it down. So he did Pete Johnson's stuff, was winning races, and then said to Pete, basically, hey, this is taking up too much of my time. Unless we can go pro racing, it's not really worth me to keep doing this. And Pete said, well, if you want to go pro racing, I have a gentleman I would be willing to help to do it. which was myself, that he could see, at the races that I was the top non-factory guy and we needed help, that he would be willing to help. So my first twins race is actually on Pete's motorcycle that Faraci built. We finished second to John Long. Long's father won the race. Right. I finished second. Then after that, we got the 851s, and the rest was basically history. That we went on to win the Twins Championship. And then the next season, we ran it again against Randy Renfro, and every single weekend was probably the best races at the best event at the weekend. We were never more than a bike length apart for, if it was a 12-lap race, for 12 laps, we were never more than a bike length apart all season long. You never knew who was going to win for the last lap. So the following season, that season we also ran Superbike, I guess. We finished twice. We finished second and third, the 2 races we finished. The bike just kept breaking. That during that season, we ran the World Superbike race at Brainerd. And I think I led the first 5 laps, and they'd kill me down the straightaway, and I'd pass them in the infield, and they'd kill me down the straightaway, and I'd pass them in the infield, and they'd kill me down the straightaway, I'd pass them in the infield. I'm thinking to myself, are you freaking kidding me? These are the world championship freaking factory riders. They ride like crap.
That was Raymond Roche, wasn't it? Giancarlo Filappa and those guys? Filappa?
Tardazzi or something, right?
Oh, yeah, David Tardazzi, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was freaking killing him in the infield. They go home, and Faraci's telling me the story, because I didn't know it till this year. Faraci's telling me the story. He says, oh, yeah, they went back to Europe, and they're screaming at the boss over there. That Quarterley, he's a friggin' asshole. He arrives, he has stood me up 5 times, that asshole has stood me up. And I'm like, what do you mean stood me up? He's like, he'd stuffed me in the turn. I have to stand it up not to hit him. I'm like, I know. It took me that long to get to him because I had to make up what I lost on the straightaway. I didn't have time to wait till the next turn to pass him. The second I get to him, I screw those guys. I just stand them up and keep on trucking. He says, that's why the motorcycle's breaking, because he's overriding it. He's an animal. I'm like, that's not why it's breaking. It's breaking because the stupid computers are quitting halfway through the race. So man, my whole big story, though, is Faraci and I made it together. We conquered the U.S. together. When the end of the season came, which would be 89, in 90, they had to hire me, but at this point they were going to pay me. Or Jamie James was looking for a ride, and he had just won the #1 plate. So they could get either one of us for the same price, but he's going to bring the #1 plate with him. So who do you think got hired?
Wow.
I remember that, actually.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm out of ride again at the end of January, and I had to put a motorcycle together in a month, put a whole team together in a month. Because for 2 years, I've been riding for somebody else. So I had helped make Faraci. So when Faraci retired and decided to come back, because at that point I happened to have a team up and running again, I was the no-brainer choice. Hey, I'm going to go hang out with Quarterley.
That's so cool.
And his comment at the racetrack, which I thought was classic, it actually needs to be written down in the AMA Museum, Hall of Fame Museum, is I started with Quarterley, I die with Quarterley.
That's beautiful. It's so good to have him back in the paddock. Hey, Dale.
Sean, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Did I tell you my favorite Faraci story?
No.
Okay, so
it doesn't have to do with goulash, does it?
No, it does have to do with food, though.
All right.
But so Henny Ray Abrams, who you'll all remember, worked with me for forever at Cycle News and passed away. Yes, he was awesome, good photographer, just a good guy, and I might not be where I am without his help. So I thank him all the time. But so we sent Henny to Faraci's place in Philly, and to do a story. So being the foodie that he is, Henny's ears perked up when Faraci said, "Look, let's go to have some lunch." because he adds an A to everything because that's what you do. So Henny's just foaming at the mouth about this local Italian place that Faraci's going to take him to, and Faraci took him to the Olive Garden. Anyhow,
hey Paul,
the other thing is Faraci actually worked for Benelli the year my father won the world championship.
I was going to ask you that. Wow, that's cool.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, so they go way back as well, and I think they're the same age. My dad's 80. I think Faraci's 80 or 81.
Faraci just turned 80 this year, end of this year.
Yeah, so they're the same age. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting as well. Not a lot of people know that.
Well, so Aroldo won that the 250 World Championship with your father on a Benelli.
He worked for Benelli in some capacity. I don't know if he. He was I think at that point he was probably a junior mechanic or something, wow. But he was involved at some level with that program. So
when they brought Faraci to the States, he was the lead. I'm going to call him technician, even though that's not what they called him back then. He was the lead technician because he could do just what Faraci does. He can design stuff. He can look at something and tell you what the problem is and fix it. Mm-hmm. So, that's why they left him here. But then when they were done, they're like, hey, I can tell you right now, we're not going world championship racing like we used to. And, you need to go do something else. You're too good for us. And his boss fired him.
Wow.
And made him stay here. Because he could see the potential in him.
Hey, Paul, tell Dale, since he mentioned about Brainerd and World Superbike and all that, tell Dale the fingers of the feet story. That story is so funny.
But I don't think it was there.
Okay,
but anyway,
I'm just thinking of the Italian right. It's okay.
Well, it was Raymond Roche.
Yeah, Raymond Roche,
French, and he crashed. I think it was at a Grand Prix that I was working at. It might have been a World Superbike, but I think it was a Grand Prix. And his quote to me was, "I crashed in the chicken and I broke the fingers of my feet." Which means he crashed in the chicane and broke his toes.
Yeah, right.
But Sean likes that story for some reason.
I just love it. I love it.
For a little while, I was doing race cars while I was doing the bikes. And I had bought a ACT car, American Canadian Tour. So it's half people from Quebec and stuff, and half French-speaking Canadian, and half Americans running the tour. And I go... I think it was the second race I went to, and they were having, an open mic night at the local tavern, and, everybody's invited. So because I'm new, I decided, well, I'll go mingle with everybody and get to know some people, right? Because you don't really get to talk to them at the track. So I want to say it was Claude Leclerc was up on stage, and he's telling the story, and they're asking him about what his best race was. And he's telling about his best race was with the American, and he says, "We be going down back straightaway, and we lap after lap, we be going together, and this lap we be going down the back straightaway side by each." Says we be side by each. 5 laps. 5 laps. Continue. 5 laps. Continue. Side by each.
Oh man.
Okay, guys. Let's put an end to this one. I appreciate you joining us, Dale. It's always nice to talk to you. We go way back, obviously, and I just want people to know that race in 1993. I was only 12 years old, so I was the youngest journalist in the paddock. I'm not quite as old as Dale, so I just wanted that to be perfectly clear.
The Doogie Howser of motorcycles. The Doogie Howser of motorcycles.
Yeah, exactly. I finished school when I was 11 and got the job when I was 12, and it's been downhill ever since. But anyways, guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me for some time here, and it was nice talking to you, Dale, and we'll see you at the first race or a test, or we'll see you somewhere down the line. Sean, I'll talk to you later, and we'll do this again next week. So
okay, sounds good.
Thanks to everybody for listening, and you know how to do it. Subscribe wherever you choose to listen, and you'll be notified when the shows are new, and you can keep listening, and we'll keep doing them for you. So I appreciate everybody for joining in. Appreciate my guest and appreciate my co-host. I'm just an appreciative guy right now.
Yes, you are.
I'll let you all I'll let you all go, and we'll be back next week.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Paul. See you, Dale.
Thank you.